Hey, beautiful people of the internet, how are you guys doing today? Hopefully great. Welcome to Budget Builds, where we use zero format and achieve maximum efficiency. So in today's video, we are going to be taking a closer look at Baruuk, aka the monk of Warframe. So you guys know Baruuk is a brand new frame, and a lot of people like to refer to him as the avatar or the airbender of Warframe, you know, Avatar Aang, which is kind of cool. But at the same time, I like to think him as a monk, mainly because of the fact that, you know, when he throws out those air punches, I like to think of it that he likes to go and hit the enemies with chi. I don't know about you, but I think that is kind of cool. But before we continue with the video any further, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys like to support me or the channel any further, do remember to leave a like on this video, as it does help me out substantially. Sparking the subscribe button for more Warframe videos and streams. We also do have a Discord server, so if you guys are a lonely tenor who needs some form of guidance, this is the place to go and be. What you guys waiting for? Go and join the server, as there will be a link in the description. You guys can also then go and interact with me, of course, outside YouTube, or of course in doing any one of my live streams. Without further ado, let's get this video on the road, shall we? So before I give you guys the build for Baruuk, let's quickly go over how he actually does go and work. So his passive, basically it says that any form of his abilities will then go and erode his restraint, which will then go and fuel his serene storm, which is number 4, which will then go and get into it. And of course, if his if his restraint is less than 50%, or you know, you guys have actually lowered it down to the 50% margin, because there'll like be this bar at the bottom left there. What's going to happen is you'll be have more resistance to any form of damage, which is then thrown to you. So think of it as a form of damage reduction, except with a condition that has to then go and be met. Our next ability is called Elude, and it's actually relatively useful, yet I personally don't like it too much, because I'll tell you guys just now why. So Elude allows you to then go and dodge any form of incoming attacks towards you, therefore the enemies can't go and hurt you. Whether it is projectile based one or melee attacks, they all do go and work. However, you'll then become vulnerable once you then start going attacking. So think of it as a way to get yourself out of any sticky situation that does go and arise. Next up is we are going to be talking about lull, and the way it works is simple. You then go and send out this wave, which will then go and slow and sleep the enemies. All the enemies will then go to sleep. They will also be opened up to finishes if you guys really want to then go and take that route. But the most important thing about lull is the fact that this ability, once you guys go and put all these enemies to sleep, will then go and lower your restraint. So therefore you can go and use your number 4. This is the ability that you have to then go and spam it, because the more enemies you then go and put to sleep, you can then go and fuel your void storm even further. Next up is we are going to be talking about Desolate Hands, and what happens is this is your form of damage reduction, where you'll then be surrounded by a whole bunch of daggers. Any form of these daggers will then go and touch the enemy, they'll then be disarmed. It can also work as a form of damage reduction, just like how Guard does work with their shards that do go and surround her. And what happens is that for every shard that is surrounding you, you are then going to go and get yourself 10% damage reductions. By default, we have 8 times 10 is going to be 80% damage reduction, which is very good considering it is a default stats. Now you guys can go and increase this with more power strength, but we'll get to that just now. And finally, his signature ability, the one ability that makes Baruuk an absolute unit of a frame or a powerhouse of a warframe, is Serene Storm. So once your restraint has been eroded from, it can be at any percentage, doesn't have to be in a particular one. Just make sure that you have restraint or have lowered your restraint to a level. What's going to happen is you'll then go full monk mode, and then you'll go and hit the enemies with your chi. In other words, you'll then go and deliver wind to the enemies, therefore doing a massive amount of damage. Now this is another exalted based ability, but it does have a drain per second, but not on your energy itself. It's got a drain per second on the restraint bar at the bottom left. So the way it works is you then need to go and lower that bar using lull. The more enemies you then go sleep, the less your restraint will be. Once that restraint is as low as humanly possible, once again it does synergize really well with the passive. You can then go and use Serene Storm for a lot longer time. I'll do my utmost best to go and explain to you guys exactly what I mean. So these are the abilities. Let's then move on to the build itself. Just like every other episode of budget builds, we don't then go and add any format, because that's how we like to then go and roll. I did a poll, and you guys seem to then go and want to see more budget builds instead of complete builds, which is perfectly fine with me, because at the end of the day, I personally do not like going and doing the endless tedious grind when it comes to Hydron. So here is a zero format build, no form, because that's how we like to then roll. And what we're going to be prioritizing is on strength, range, and efficiency, with the sacrifice of duration. Now, why is our duration so low? That's mainly because of the fact that our lull is the best way to then go and lower our restraint. Therefore, we can then go and use our Serene Storm. If our restraint is at 100%, we can't then go and use it. The best thing to do is to then go and put as many enemies to sleep in one singular go. By having very low duration, you'll then be able to go and spam lull, therefore lowering our restraint to the lowest possible abilities. The lower it is, the longer our restraint can go and last. Or sorry, the lower the restraint is, the longer our Serene Storm can definitely go and last. Now you guys are probably wondering, this is a different ability, and yes, we have then gone and put on Terrify, therefore we can go and have crowd control, but on top of that we can then go and lower the enemy's armor. Now you guys probably know I like to use Terrify on a lot of builds, mainly because of the fact that it is a very good debuffer. It's very consistent. All you do is push one button and it can go through walls and provide a ton of crowd control, which is very good when it comes to late game, because Baruuk is definitely needed, mainly because of the fact that he is very squishy. He is a literal glass cannon. Now for the arcanes, we are going to be using Energize and Avenger. Energize for more energy economy, a very good energy economy, and Avenger for more critical chance once we are damaged, which does synergize really well with combat discipline. So if we then go and kill an enemy, we'll then go and increase the critical chance on our universal increase to our critical chance. So it can be on your weapons, your melee weapons, and specifically your exalted based weapon. As for the mods themselves, here is what we're going to be rolling around with. So Fleeting Expertise and Streamline for max efficiency, mainly because the fact that we are going to be spamming our Terrify, our Lull, and of course the Desolate Hands themselves for that damage reduction, and of course some more crowd control on top of everything. Without this, he is going to be a very energy hungry Warframe. Next up is we are going to be using August Secrets and of course Transient Fortitude for more power strength. Specifically Transient Fortitude and Fleeting Expertise to then go and lower our duration. Therefore we can go and spam lull as many times as we want, because remember, lull is one of those abilities that you have to then go and wait until it is completely finished. If it isn't, then you'll have to wait until it is completely timed out, which is a massive L when it comes to recharging your Serene Storm. So make sure to go and lower it to the lowest as humanly possible. Next up is we are going to be talking about Stretch and Augury Reach for more range. Remember, the more range we have, the lot greater our area of effect for both our Terrify and of course Lull will be. The more enemies you guys can affect in one singular go, the quicker your restraint will then go lower. Therefore, you'll then be able to go and use Serene Storm as soon as humanly possible. Now we are also going to be including the Archon mod called Archon Vitality, which basically gives us a second heat proc once a heat proc has already been procced onto the enemy. So one heat proc will be 2 heat procs in the same instantaneous form, and I'll tell you guys exactly why. And of course we are going to be using Reactive Storm. Now remember I talked to you guys about Reactive Storm. This is a very powerful augment and is a massive must when it comes to Baruuk, mainly because of the fact that once you guys go and hit the enemies, it'll then go and convert your impact damage into whatever the enemy's elemental damage currently is. So if you guys are facing the Grenier, most of them are going to be using ferrite armor, therefore their biggest weakness is going to be corrosive. So therefore you are going to then go and hit them with that continuous 75% damage. Remember, it's 75% of what they currently have, which does then go and scale when it comes to enemy armor. Now this can be for any faction, doesn't have to be Grenier specifically, it can even be for the Corpus or even Infested, but of course we are then going to go and fight the Corpus themselves. Oh sorry, not the Corpus, we are going to go and fight the Grenier. Now one thing I do want to say is Archon Vitality actually does synergize quite well when it comes to Reactive Storm, and on top of that, the same thing can be said to Terrify, because remember, with one click of a button, Terrify will then allow you to then go and strip the enemy's armor, only leaving behind flesh. Naturally, because Baruuk is an exalted base frame, we are going to be able to then go and mod these weapons directly. The name of his signature weapons are called the Desert Wind Prime rank 30, also don't worry about the rank there, and just like the previous one, this is another zero format build, and we're basically just going for a pure crit based build. This is of course an unformat build, mainly because the fact that we don't like to go and use that stuff right here. So like I said, we are then going to go and put Volcanic Edge, mainly because the fact that we are going to go and use Archon Vitality. Remember, Archon Vitality goes and procs a second heat proc onto enemy on top of the initial one, and because we are going to then go and strip enemy armor, that particular heat proc will always or mainly always be there. Of course, it will vary depending on whatever is more powerful. Sometimes it can be viral, but trust me, when you guys then go and put heat onto this, you'll then be able to go and burn the enemies to a crisp. And like I said, this is your standard crit base build. We are going to then go and roll around Organ Shatter, Gladiator Might to give us a 5 times critical multiplier. That is going to be relatively high. We are of course going to be using Berserker Fury, therefore we have a much faster swing speed, therefore we have a much faster DPS. And of course we are going to be using our sacrificial mods, Sacrificial Steel for our crit and Sacrificial Pressure for our melee damage. Usually I would then go and throw in a primed flow, or sorry, not primed flow, a primed pressure pointer to give us more base damage, but because these are a set based mods, you will then be able to go and enhance their primary functionality. By adding the sacrificial mods, we'll then go and increase our critical chance to 162.5% critical chance, which is very, very good, which does synergize really well with Avenger. Remember, we are going to be using combat discipline to then go and proc Avenger at will when we go and kill enemies. Just make sure that this is a double-edged sword because it will then go and kill you. So make sure to keep an eye on things like your restraint, your health, and of course the enemies around you. We are currently in the Simulacrum, and of course I will be showing you guys exactly how this particular does then go and perform. So the way it's going to work is simple. Simply then go into your Simulacrum. We're going to then go and spawn in some enemies. And what we simply want to then do is to go and lower our restraint, which is at the bottom right. The way it works is simple. You then want to go and affect as many enemies with your number 2 ability. So like this. You push number 2, you then see the bar lowers. Now what we want to simply then do is activate our 4. Therefore we can then go into our Serene Storm, activate our 1 and start pummeling the enemies like so. Now one thing I do want to say is that it's not going to last. The armor strip isn't going to last long, mainly because of the fact that our lull is very important for us, to go and refresh our number 4. And as you guys can tell, the lower your restraint, the longer your Serene Storm will definitely go and last. And that's all you guys have to do. Simply then hit them with your 1, hit them with your number 4, and start tapping E like crazy. You'll then go and proc a heat proc, and then just watch them all go and die. If you want, you can then go and hit them with a heat proc if you totally want. That's up to you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, I make some pretty awesome Warframe content, so if you guys want to then go and watch that, do remember to take a look at the links down in the description. There'll be some on the screen now. Some of them will also be suggested to you guys at the top right. Also do go take a look at them, and of course do leave a like on this video. It will help me out substantially. Spartan, click the subscribe button for more Warframe videos and streams. We also do have a Discord server, so if you guys would like to then go and interact with me outside of YouTube or doing any one of my live streams or want some general help, there'll be a link in the description. Go and join it. And finally, Spartan, click the subscribe button for more Warframe videos and streams. I'm Mac like a banana and split.